Yeah, I think creative, in the programmatic space has always been underutilized, always been a little bit underappreciated. And those could be for a lot of reasons. Actually, we kind of distill it down to three reasons because we do want clients to utilize and recognize the power of creative in the programmatic ecosystem. Because in a programmatic ecosystem, everything is interconnected. We have media, we have data, and we have creative, and all of that is measurable towards the holistic, client's goals. So when we really examine why clients are not using creative right now or underutilizing it, it really breaks down to three main reasons. So one of the first reasons why it's underutilized is because when we think about traditional media and how creative is viewed, it stems a lot from that tradition. So from TV, from magazines, creative agencies tend to be separate entities and separate disciplines from the media buying or the media planning entities. So some of that carried through to the programmatic space. And I think that's a little threatening to people that have to work with creative. Actually, I think some of the best creative ideation, some of the best creative brainstorming, it comes from the buyers, it comes from the planners who have no creative background. But because they know the client's audience so well, they're able to connect that creative vision and then also execute on that vision based on who the client is trying to reach. And I think activating it is so important in the programmatic space because I think what tends to happen in the programmatic industry is that creative activation is an afterthought because most of that creative again comes from that creative agency. It comes from the client's creative agency. So we're essentially, a lot of times taking or repurposing what was already created, by some agency who really have no connection to the media, to the data, to the performance, and just taking that and then using it on the campaign. So I think one of the things that we can do to tackle that challenge is really start at the briefing stage of an RFP. So before anything gets executed, before anything gets purchased, we really sit down with the clients. We sit down with the creative agency. We talk about that vision of how they want to message their consumers, and then the ever-changing messages because of the pandemic, because of changing consumer behavior, and how do we really execute that? And I think it could be either really simple, right, or really complex. So in the simple version, we could actually just take existing assets and then we could repurpose them. But then what we really want to do as a company is make sure clients have really bespoke creative that speaks to the consumers in this environment, and also connect that to the data and to the media that they're running with us. So creative versioning and the challenges, I think they go hand in hand. And I think that speaks to one of the reasons why it is underutilized or underappreciated, because creative versioning it can be a more complex process than essentially just taking what the client provides you. And that process adds to the timeline of that creative. So we're essentially introducing two completely new teams, right? The creative team on the Xaxis side, and then also the creative team on the agency side, which can add to the timeline of quick turnarounds and everything like that. One of the most unique things about programmatic creative is what we call dynamic creative optimization. And when you think about DCO or dynamic creative optimization, think of a blank template where we could essentially customize every aspect of that template. So think of a banner ad that you see online. So imagine actually customizing the fonts, the text, the image, the background color, the offers, the buttons, everything you can think of, we could actually customize. And it's taking that one template and creating, hundreds to thousands of different variations where clients could create and automatically optimize towards the best performing creative. So ideally, in this privacy focused world that we live in now, and especially important for 2022, is that creative inherently is cookieless. It's about consumer strategy. It's about how to reach that consumer and connecting them with brands. And because it is cookieless, it will remain one of the constant factors into that testing with clients. So for example, I think right now, on average, we probably see about 3 to or about 4 creatives per campaign with clients. And then when you think about the scale of the campaigns with clients into the hundreds of millions of impressions, it doesn't really allow room for the creatives to be customizable, to gain additional insights. But when you scale that up into dynamic creative, we'll have hundreds and even thousands of different data signals that come through the creative, which will allow clients and brands to have much richer insights and much richer optimizations towards their outcomes. So AI is one of those things that we lean on heavily at Xaxis. We have a proprietary AI tool. It's called Copilot. And essentially, AI breaks down into 2 things. It breaks down into inputs and outputs. So the inputs are the signals that you get on a campaign. So they could be, anything from cookies, which it is now, to cookieless signals like browser, location, time of day, the weather. So when you introduce creative into that mix, and when you get clients to widely adapt these dynamic creative optimization solutions, where it enables us to create thousands of creative variations on the fly, it introduces thousands more different data inputs, to which then our AI Copilot could actually optimize towards the output or the client's outcome. And I think one really great example of this is our AI actually we have an algorithm called bid grouper, right? And it kind of sounds like a fish actually, but bid grouper essentially takes cookieless cohorts of the best performing segments of inventory by using signals that will be here today and also will be here in the future, which are like browser, creative, time of day, geo, and essentially optimizes towards the best cohorts. So creative will only allow our AI and also other AIs to introduce a ton of measurable aspects of the creative, like the click, how long someone hover on the ad, if they interacted with a video, how long they played a video, all these different combinations, which will only, introduce richer data into the AI. We really look at ourselves as shepherds of our clients' media dollars or media investments. We have an ethical responsibility to our clients and also to the end consumers. So privacy is, one of the highest priority for us. And this is why creative is so important in this new world of consumer privacy, because creative is inherently cookieless. It doesn't have any privacy, metrics tied to it. So creative is about allowing brands to connect to consumers through the messaging, through the creative itself. So responsible media, to me, it means that we're examining the data that our client is using towards creative or towards the media. If that data has any implications on consumer privacy, if that data was sourced ethically, if that data was consented from our consumers, and really finding the balance between using that data and the technologies that exist without the use of PII, without the use of cookies, which goes back to our AI example. We don't have to use cookies. We don't have to use PII to make optimizations or to have great outcomes for our clients. So responsible media is taking the trends that we have right now, but evolving them to the trends of the future, which means cookieless, which means more cohort-based optimizations, and a huge emphasis on creative variations and creative optimization.